Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the Plebsites. Joining us today, we've got Jane Addams, who is a candidate for Congress in Las Vegas. Jane, thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we are diving into the numbers. Let's do it, Nico.
Number time! Brought to you by Nodl. They make some of the best Bitcoin nodes, like the Nodl Dojo. It's in red. That means it's faster. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core and the Lightning Network, all in the comfort of your own home. Remember, guys, if you don't run your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's, and that's a big no-no for privacy. So get yourself a Nodl Dojo today.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 735,850. The Bitcoin price, 30,945. Chain rewrite days, 726. Total public Lightning capacity, 3,788.86. Moscow time, 3232. Very cool. Anyways, blocks to the halvening, 104,150. And the Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samurai Whirlpool is a CoinJoiner collaborative spend. It is not a mixing service. And the unspent capacity for that pool is 4,671.60 BTC. Nico, the numbers.
The numbers, bro. So we have Jane on today, and this is something that we've been talking about for a while. I want to do a reaction to a video. What we've been covering over the last couple months is this push by governments in Europe and the United States and the so-called democracies to censor the internet, censor speech, and it's very, very troubling. And a video came out today of the new DHS Bureau of Misinformation, and she had some things to say. And great, we have a candidate for Congress, and I would love to get her thoughts on this. It's absolutely crazy. It's dystopian. I think that the government has no business in deciding what is true and what is not. So let's check this out.
And I am eligible for it because I'm verified, but there are a lot of people who shouldn't be verified who aren't, legit, in my opinion. I mean, they are real people, but they're not trustworthy. Anyway, so verified people can essentially start to edit Twitter the same sort of way that Wikipedia is, so they can add context to certain tweets. So just as a easy example, not from any political standpoint, if President Trump were still on Twitter and tweeted a claim about voter fraud, someone could add context from one of the 60 lawsuits that went through the court, or something that an election official in one of the states said, perhaps your own Secretary of State and his news conferences, something like that. Adding context so that people have a fuller picture rather than just an individual claim on a tweet.
So it's absolutely terrifying. And look, put her example aside, right? The reality is that about 40% of the country believes that something happened in the election. I'm not going to get into that, right? So who is this person to essentially add context? That's the whole point of freedom of speech, right? That's why the founding fathers made it so, right? Because at the end of the day, the person who controls speech is going to use that for their own political gain at the end of the day, right? So, but it's not also in the United States, which is extremely troubling. It's also happening in Europe. This is another tweet. The EU Commission is expected to push the draft law on chat control tomorrow. Lawmakers seek AI-based checks of all message, content, and images directly on users' devices. Critics say that this is an attack on the digital privacy of correspondence. I absolutely agree. That is dystopian. What do you mean chat control, right? And is that going to affect Signal? And why am I talking about this if this is a Bitcoin show? Look, freedom of speech is the front line, right? If you think that governments don't want you to say certain things because that's what they want, right? Do you think that they're going to allow you to transact? Do you think they're going to allow you to use an uncensorable money? That's the next thing they're going to go after, right? It's just common sense, right? So this is very scary stuff. So Jane, if you do get elected to Congress, what are your thoughts on this? This is very scary stuff. Are you going to fight back against the Biden administration's new Ministry of Information? This is very scary stuff. I know there's members of Congress like Rand Paul that wants to introduce a bill to defund it altogether. So what are your thoughts?
I agree with Rand Paul, absolutely. It reminds me of the book by George Orwell, 1984, where they had the Ministry of Truth. And basically, what they would do is correct the records in history to reflect what would make sense to match what they were saying today. So essentially, it was the Ministry of Lies. And I see this as similar, and it's really scary, actually. I would never want the government deciding what is truth and what is not. And they're also already in control of our books, our education. So that's just something else they're going to decide to teach us. I mean, a lot of our history is wrong in the States anyway, and we're still being taught it. This is just going to make it worse. They're just going to enslave us, and it's just a step closer to complete control of the individual.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely what some in the government, particularly in this moment in history, that's what the left wing is pushing forwards to do. So I completely agree. Phil, what are your thoughts on this?
I just want to point out, right? If you want to add context to people's tweets right now, you could just retweet.
You could comment. You could comment. No, but she wants an official response, right?
This is
and she had a Freudian slip too, as well. Is that some people shouldn't be verified? What does that mean? You mean the people that you agree with politically? And she referenced Wikipedia, by the way. Wikipedia is very well known to have a very heavily skewed left-wing bias as well, right? So it's corrupt, man. Phil, what are your thoughts?
It's not your tweet anymore. Right? As soon as you can have somebody and quote unquote a verified person. So again, we're going back to the whole central entity verifying somebody. What are their beliefs, their ideologies, deciding on who is verified and who's not. And then after that, it's just no longer your tweet anymore. So this goes back to your original point about freedom of speech. It's just gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't even exist. You're reading somebody else's story. Sorry, Jane.
Yeah, it's like what they said in 1984, freedom is slavery. It's the same thing now. It's basically saying if we have the right to speak too openly, it's going to destroy our society. It's going to destroy our culture, and the government needs to have the right to control it. Also, the Ministry of Truth said war is peace. And I heard someone from Ukraine, I think it was someone from the government say that war is peace. They say we need weapons right now, and it sounds unusual, but war means peace. And when I heard that, I felt immediately that we were definitely going down the wrong path.
Absolutely. It's very scary. And, just to comment a little bit on the law that's being pushed in Germany, and where, this AI goes through things to make sure that you're not saying the wrong things or not. How long until, they say they can't allow Bitcoin because, and they're already trying to do that, right? In Europe, they're also going after what? Self-custody. Why? Because self-custody allows you to transact with everybody. So it's all the same front, right? Freedom of speech is the front line, right? But Bitcoin's right behind it. If we don't fight for freedom of speech, the right to speak freely, then they're going to take away the right to transact, right? So, or they're going to try. Bitcoin's really anti-fragile, but it's very, very scary stuff. Let's see how it plays out. But anyways, Phil, it's time for it.
The Daily Fail. Brought to you by Swan. Check them out. SwanBitcoin.com. The best place to dollar cost average purchasing Bitcoin. It's the best way to build your stack. Automated savings plans, instant purchases, and an app to come. The link is down below. Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of fun before we dive into the fail. This was actually the reason why I reached out to Jane, because I thought that this was such a funny thread. So I had to find out if she'd come join us on Simply Bitcoin. As anybody that trolls. Come on, trolling Neil. This was awesome. Okay, so look, he wrote to Jane. He goes, although I appreciate you taking the time to reply, kind of weird response considering you're the one running for Congress. Can you please answer the original questions about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? And here's a screenshot of his original questions. And then, okay, So it's actually kind of funny because in the original question, he asks her a question about her net worth being allocated to Bitcoin, and she pastes back literally his question. And then in his thread again, she pasted back his exact question to him. So, Jane, what is going on? What is going on with Neil? Why is Neil being trolled?
Neil Jacobs, right? So basically what happened was I get an alert in my feed. Someone copied a screenshot of my feed and posted it on their timeline. And I'm thinking, who is this person that's spending so much time on my profile, going through my messages, my posts, screenshotting it, then going back to their profile, making a private post that only me and them can answer, and then contacting me, writing this long paragraph. I thought, wow, who is this Stan? How long has he been lurking? So when I read the message, I thought, wow, these questions are really personal. I don't have a reason to disclose my personal finances on Twitter to the whole world. And he responded, so I copied and pasted it back to him. And then he responded again, like he said, and I copied and pasted it back to him again. And at that point, I just realized he wasn't just a stan, he was a simp too. So at that point, I just couldn't even believe it. I looked him up. I thought, who is this person? And I ended up going into Clubhouse. I signed up on Clubhouse. Just all these groups came up, recommended. And he was there. He was hosting it. So I thought, all right, let me lurk in here. And someone requested me to come up and speak. And basically, he wouldn't speak. And they said, why aren't you talking? And he said, well, I asked her some questions about her finances, and she never answered me. And I said, no, I answered you. You didn't like my answer, but I answered you. But you're running for Congress. Congress people are supposed to disclose their finances. I said, I'm not a congressperson. I'm an ordinary person. I have no reason to show you my bank account. It's ridiculous. And then they booted me out, basically, which is good because I don't want to deal with him. I mean, he's so weird. He wears this mask and this hoodie in his picture, and he's like spending all this time on my profile.
But hold on, Jay. So hold on. From the Bitcoiners' perspective, right? We're just constantly being attacked, right? So we're naturally, in my opinion, most Bitcoiners are just naturally defensive, right? And because a lot of things get lost in translation, right? But I do agree with some of his questions. I understand that you don't want to get into intricacies of what you're holding. That's fair enough. But, the question of, do you own any Bitcoin? You don't have to tell us the amount, right? Do you own any Bitcoin personally?
I've said that a million times in every space. I've said it on my feed. Of course I do. Why would I not?
Okay.
I don't see why I would even encourage people to have Bitcoin if I don't have any.
Okay, fair enough. Phil?
All right. So we can move on from the. I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was such a funny thread, and I'm like, this is so strange. So
they're like the percent of your net worth. I think that's inappropriate for obvious reasons. Now the Doge question is, I would say it's interesting. Again, I'm not a big. This is my perspective, and I would love to get your perspective, Jane. I don't think the government should get involved in deciding what people should put in their portfolio or not, in terms of the retirement question. But if you could be so kind, what is your perspective on Doge and other altcoins, or as the Bitcoin community calls them, shitcoins?
So Twitter is a very wild space. I haven't been on social media in 4 years, and I signed up 2 months ago just because of my campaign. I get in Twitter, it's just the craziest place. So one of my friends is Jason. He's popularly known as Dogecoin Millionaire. So we met downtown Las Vegas. There was an art walk. It's just fun. So I'm a supporter of Bitcoin. He's a supporter of Dogecoin. So when I tweeted, I said, hey, Bitcoin and Dogecoin unite, meaning he and I met in one space, and people took it completely out of context. By the time I woke up and looked at my page, I was like, well, I can't take it down now. Then people are going to think I'm hiding something. So it just kept going on and on. So as far as Doge, I mean, that's Jason's coin. He likes that. It's really not for me to tell him what to do.
Okay.
Bitcoin Twitter.
Fair enough. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of things get lost in translation, and and I think that Bitcoiners are naturally defensive. Phil, I think we covered it pretty well, right? We covered the Doge part. I don't think it's appropriate to ask, what percentage of your net worth. I don't think that's an appropriate question. Yeah. And do you own any other cryptocurrencies? I mean, you could answer that. You could not. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I have different kinds, just whatever I find interesting.
Okay, fair enough.
I dabble.
Fair enough.
It's not anything that I hold for a long time, but it's fun to dabble. I do the same thing with stocks.
Okay.
Just remember, it's all at your own risk.
Yeah, but again, we're Bitcoiners at the end of,
yeah.
to each their own.
I'm not losing. I'm not losing anything, so it's not like,
Yeah, to each their own. Be free to do what you want. But I hope that that answers everything, right, Phil? Because I know the plebs are going to beat us up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think that definitely covers everything.
Moving on
to the actual fails. Here we go, guys. All right, that was like a prelude to the fails. Here we go. So, tagged by ICO Sonat. Here we go, guys. Once again, corporate-owned media always reminding us, the little guys, that it's your fault that things are terrible. Okay? That's right. Rather than blame the Fed, massive amounts of insider trading, the hedge funds utilizing numerous dark pools, heavy shorting, the underfunding of the SEC, the politicians trading, the many, many other issues in the market, they blame retail traders. They blame average people. Okay, so here's a clip from Fox News Station, and just listen to what the reporter says about what's going on in the current market. Okay.
Traders who bought the AMCs and the Pelotons and the GameStops, they haven't sold out yet. So a lot of folks are saying these guys lost a lot of money. Many of them are still in the market. Some of them really don't know what they're doing because they're novice amateur traders who started when they were bored and they don't really know much about stocks. We can't figure out when the real bottom of the overall market is that our 401ks are invested in, because the meme guys are still there. They don't know when to exit. Maybe they won't. Wow. So
the meme guys, Nico, so I want you to think about this. This whole market going down right now is because of the meme stock traders. This is the problem, Nico. This small subset of people that normally have zero power in the market all of a sudden are causing all billions of dollars to be wiped out. It's not the money printing, right? It's not all these other problems that we're seeing. It's not all of this, the magical, what's it called? Food manufacturers that are going up in smoke, but supposedly not. No. None of these supply chain problems. It's these traders, Nico.
Yeah, look, I think it's the same thing happened in 2008, right? It's capitalism on the way up, and then whenever the elites lose themselves, it's socialized losses right through the public, right? It's absolutely crazy. Clearly, she's just asking for the government to step in and not allow these people that are willing and able to just making their own decisions and buying these stocks because they feel like it. That's how the free market works. But apparently she's against the free market, right? She wants guaranteed returns apparently. And dude, I think it's all over the industry. You saw the same when the whole GameStop thing happened, Phil. You saw that. You saw the reaction by the hedge fund managers. You saw the reaction from some people in Congress like Elizabeth Warren. This can't happen, right? But when it happens to the little guy, they don't care. That's capitalism, right? But when it happens to them, oh no, we need government, we need regulation, like hypocrisy. And this is why these people hate Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, there is no, bank of last resort. There is no, everyone's equal, right? So anyways, Jane, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. I actually think it's not capitalism. I think it's crony capitalism. I think we have a system that helps the banks profit, but not the people. I was in the GameStop AMC situation, and it was great to see retail investors just get together. The spirit was amazing, and I think people learned a lot from that, especially how companies are allowed to have naked shorts. They're able to get away with so many bad things that retail traders aren't. And it was very shocking to me how they got away with the Robinhood when they stopped the trading with Robinhood. So yeah, I agree with you.
It just made me think, when you said stop trading, for some reason, every time I hear that, I just think of that Vitalik tweet. I don't ever think of anything else. The second I hear stop trading, I just picture Vitalik. Stop trading. Anyways. All right. Okay, so here we go. We're going to move on to, unless Nico, do you have any closing thoughts on that one?
No, bro. I mean, it's not look, if the market could be regulated, it will, right? That's why Bitcoin is so important. I think it's the only free market in the world, man. But anyways, what is the next one, Phil?
All right, guys, here we go. This is the it's the grand finale of the fails. So recently, we're starting to hear, as the Bitcoin price tanks, we're starting to hear talk about Luna Terra, okay, which has some quote unquote stable peg to the dollar. But anyways, let's take a look at the price. This is a retweet from Mr. Robot. Let's take a look at the original tweet from Dr. Jeff Ross. Okay, here's a little screenshot. What no bid looks like. This is the price of Luna. That does not look good. But
amazing.
Yeah, I know, and this is supposed to be quote-unquote stable pegged, and don't get me wrong, this is one of the reasons why shitcoins should not have real money in them, and this should not be happening anyways. But let's take a look at the stable peg. This, I think Corey sums it up very well. Trying to make $1 out of 64 cents. So what he's saying is that they couldn't hold their peg to the dollar, and this is the whole point, supposedly, of this shitcoin, is to do this. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't even fulfill its main mission. Anyways, moving on. Let's go dive into the article that covers it, and let's see what happened exactly. The Luna Foundation Guard, or LFG, which every time I read that, I always read it as let's effing go. Anyways, the Luna Foundation Guard used $1.5 billion from its treasury to help project, I think they meant protect, the $1 peg of the UST. 750 million worth of Bitcoin has been budgeted for OTC trading firms. Want everyone to remember that and keep that in the back of their mind as we get to the end of this article. Binance has suspended withdrawals of Luna and UST until trading volume reduces. The UST token dropped to 66 cents with the market crash, and the BTC usage has helped bring it back up to 91. Still some way from the dollar peg. Meanwhile, the Luna token has dropped by over 45% in the past 24 hours, now worth about $33. And that other screenshot that I showed you had gone down even further than that. But anyways, as we stated before, Binance has suspended withdrawals of Luna and UST, usually not a very good sign for your shitcoin. And also one of the things that we like to bring up, right? You leave stuff on exchanges. This is what happens. Yep. It could get frozen. Anyways, moving on. Okay, here we go. Remember that 750 million that's for the OTC traders? Check this out. The traders that take up the loans will trade on both sides of the market to avoid depegging and protect UST from the ongoing volatility. And I want you to think about this. I want you guys to think about this. Terra markets itself, and what a website it has. Terra markets itself as a trustless, programmable blockchain. But yet, here we are. We've given $750 million in loans to a group of traders, which will try to stabilize the depegging and the volatility. Anyways, the Luna Foundation Guard has announced an elaborate plan, I think they mean plan, to protect Terra USD from depegging after yesterday's scenario that saw the stablecoin constantly deviate below the dollar mark. Trustless, they say, Nico. So look, all I could say is we see a tumble in Bitcoin in the last couple of days, and this is what I was saying to Nico before the show started. Some of the weaker projects, they're going to get shaken out first, and you're going to start to see these things happen first. So actually, you know what? There was one other before we go into the comments and we get Jane's take. I just did want to show. So there's this tweet thread that is going to be in the comments. It's very long and drawn out, explaining the intricacies of UST and Luna and this other anchor protocol that they're using. Anyways, look, it's a whole bunch of shitcoin shenanigans, moving money around for no apparent reason. But the takeaway, this is kind of the signal for me here, okay? This is a tweet from @JohnWoo, okay? So this is the bet with Luna. UST is going to be burned for staking. The Luna price will go up. Sell more Luna to fund the protocol reserve. And long term, UST takes off as a widely used stable before LFG runs out of money. Luna goes to the moon. Everyone happy. Now, when you trade your money every single day for time that you will not get back, and then you go in to dump it into some ridiculous shit like this, you need to understand, again, and I've said this 1,000 times, the rug pull is the use case. The fact that you gave them your hard-earned money, that was the use case. Okay? The people that do end up getting some money back, they're very fortunate, but they're not going to be the majority. And so this is why we say, like, look, we know the marketing is great. They pay you all kinds of money, right? 20%. They pay you not to sell. They're paying you not to sell. And they're paying you an exuberant amount of shitcoin that they mint for free not to sell. Yeah. Anyways, Jane, before we go to Nico, Jane, what are your thoughts on this? This is our fail. I told you, it's a tough segment.
It's kind of what Ethereum did with their bag at the beginning. But also, I know Terra was investing in Bitcoin. So I'm not sure what happened with that situation, if it failed so much. I think you're right, absolutely, with the rug pulls. A lot of people get involved in these shitcoins. I hate saying that word, but that's what it is. And they believe in it. They really do. They have faith in it. And as I was saying earlier, when I dabble with coins, I don't dabble with them because I believe in them. I dabble with them because I see the news and it says, in 2 weeks, this is going to happen. Okay, this is great. Let me get out before it gets rug pulled, right? But a lot of people don't think like that. They don't understand how the market works. So this is what they do. They take advantage of people, and the SEC is cracking down on them, which I'm pretty happy about. So I don't think the SEC is a great organization, but when it comes to like Logan Paul and all those people rug pulling, I think it's very important that they crack down on it.
Yeah, the whole thing is just, I agree with you. I don't agree with you in terms of more government intervention. I'm a free market type of guy, but it is there, and we're going to cover this a little bit in the news. I think that it just gives Bitcoin a bad name, right? Because people just collude it being the same, right? Bitcoin, crypto, it's the same. If crypto is bad, Bitcoin must be bad, and it's just terrible. Look, in terms of the whole Luna situation, if this is your first cycle, welcome. This is how it plays out every single time. A lot of these shitcoins, and this is why we only advocate for Bitcoin on this show strongly, they won't make all-time highs again. They're just dead, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what a lot of people will do is that they'll hold on to those shitcoin bags, right? And they'll hold on to them through the bear market. And they're going to get They're going to get really, really hit. Usually, though, the good news of those people, though, is you're going to get wrecked. And by getting wrecked, some of them are going to go Bitcoin only, right? So that's, there is a silver lining. But yeah, man, the whole Luna thing. Shout out Corey. Did a great job. Exposed it before Corey shooting 2 for 2, just slaying. You know how I say Phil's the shitcoin slayer? Corey's a shitcoin slayer too, bro. Oof.
Big time, big time.
Big time. Shout out Corey. But yeah, man, whole terrible situation. And the whole thing about the peg, look, fiat was gold backed until it wasn't, right? Things
Exactly.
Bitcoin's the only thing that has figured out it's a change in the system, right? And essentially what stable coins do is, like, dude, think about it. Is fiat really stable? It's 8%. Is it really that stable? It gives the illusion that it's stable. In my opinion, Bitcoin is the stable coin, right? It might be short-term volatile, but over the long term, it goes up. At least fiat just goes down slightly, so you don't notice, right?
I agree with you 100%. I've never held any stable coins ever. The only time I've used it is to bridge transactions. I can't even imagine what type of person would hold anything that's pegged to the dollar. It just seems, what's the point of doing that? It just doesn't make sense to me. Absolutely. But Bitcoin is, that's what I think people should be doing. There's so many opportunities to put your money into Bitcoin. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you just hold it in a pegged coin?
Yep, I completely agree. But anyways, Phil, it's time for it.
The Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. They make the best Bitcoin cultural zine. Stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. Every artwork is different for volume. This is the artwork for volume 10, and this is the artwork for volume 11. It just dropped, and they're scarce. There's only 1,000 physical copies made per volume, so get your prints of Citadel 21 today before they run out. All right, everybody, welcome to the Meme Review, where we review Bitcoin memes. You guys know the drill in this narrative trench warfare that we're fighting every day online. Memes play an essential role. They're a weapon. If tweets are bullets, memes are freaking artillery. Anyways, let's check out this first meme by Shishi. Fellow pleb, don't forget while we stack Bitcoin. This template is so good, it's Kanye. The money in your bank account is one state emergency away from being the government's money. Very, very good meme. Moving on to the next one by Light Rider. Bitcoin CEO steps down. After massive sell-off, Nakamoto loses support from the board. That is absolutely hilarious. Moving on to the next one. Dip that corn, buy those sats. Okay, it's a piece of art more than a meme. I like it. Next one, news from the future. Paul Krugman prediction comes true. Bitcoin crashes to 30,000. Okay. Moving on.
The fax machine?
I like it. For anyone that doesn't understand this reference, Paul Krugman famously predicted in the 90s that the internet was not going to amount to anything. Next one is by Dennis Sat, 58K gang. This is how it went down. Hey, friend, can you keep the price up? Sure thing. Hope he's not on the toilet. I'll buy some more later on the toilet. Absolutely hilarious. Referencing to Sailor, speaking to Bukele bought the dip. All right, moving on to James Lindsay. Awesome, hilarious meme. The inflation scare doesn't match reality. Republicans are scaremongering about inflation to derail the Democratic agenda. Why the inflation we're seeing now is a good thing. Should the government control the price of food and gas? Biden, my top priority is fighting inflation. And now kind of connect this with this, right? And this very scary, dystopian. She would have told you the entire time that inflation was misinformation, because this was the official narrative in the beginning. The inflation scare doesn't match reality. Look at the date, March 1st, 2021. It's so crazy. And they would have told you anything that wasn't that was disinformation. And people, if they listened to them, would have gotten absolutely wrecked, which is why free discourse is so freaking important. Anyways, next meme by Toxicat. Time to pull out all the stops. Stack harder, plebs. Selling stuff to stack more, not buying stuff to stack more. Buying shitcoins to buy more. And look at the fucking dragon looking over. Absolutely hilarious.
That template is fantastic.
Moving on to the next one. It's by Soli. Don't look at all-time highs. Look at yearly lows. It's very good. Zoom out, guys. That's what's important. Right? 2012 is $4. 2013 is $13. There you go. 2014, 306. 2015, 190. 2016, 360. 2017, 779. 2018, 3000. 2019, 3,390. It's going up. It really goes up almost every year. And then 2020, 5,000, 2021, 28,000, right? Absolutely true. That is the signal right there. Anyways, Phil, there's some awesome memes. And for that, I'm going to give it this awesome score of this Crypto Cloak sticker that comes if you order anything from the Crypto Cloaks online store. Anyways,
Very
Phil,
nice.
what would you give those memes?
Very nice, very nice. Okay, you know what? I am giving it this very special Bitcoin ladybug. It's a Sweet Toshi. It's another Sweet Toshi sticker. We miss the Space Cheetah.
Jane, what good score, Phil? Jane, what would you give those memes?
How do I rate it?
You just give it any score, any random object. That's a great score.
I love it. I'll give it a brand new MacBook.
Oh, is that the M1? Like the new one, the 14-inch?
No, this is an Air.
Oh, the Air. Okay, very nice.
And I saw there's a Vans off the wall sticker. Very nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, good scores for some awesome memes. Guys, we want to know if you agree with our scores, you disagree. Let us know down in the comment section. Comment. Make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like rumble.com and our personal favorite, bitcointv.com. They don't censor there, obviously, because it's Bitcoin TV. And make sure to join our awesome Telegram group. It's a party where you can link us some awesome memes to review on the Bitcoin meme review. Because of Bitcoin meme review, we need memes to review. But anyway, so it's time for it.
The Daily News.
Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make some of the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin grenade toy. Comes in any color your heart desires. You want it in gold? They could do that on CryptoCloaks.com. You want a 3D printed Bitcoin honey badger? You can get that also. Take advantage of the promo code down below to get 5% off anything off the store, CryptoCloaks.com. All right, everybody. So, coincidentally, Phil and I picked something that is connected once again. I just feel like we're in sync and that happens. I said this a little bit during the fail, right? They're going to use this, and I'm going to kind of connect this with what I was saying, right? I've been saying this for many, many months now. If it's not decentralized, eventually it's going to get captured by the government, by the state, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. This is Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is calling for stablecoin legislation by the end of the year. In response to questioning on stablecoins from Senator Pat Toomey at a May 10th hearing, Yellen confirmed that it is important, even urgent, that Congress pass stablecoin legislation. She further called it highly appropriate that Congress do so by the end of the year.
I would note that there was a report just this morning in the Wall Street Journal that a stable coin known as TERRA USD experienced a run and had declined in value. And, I think that simply illustrates that this is a rapidly growing product, and that there are risks to financial stability, and we need a framework that's appropriate.
That's right. That shitcoin was such a crash that even you have the U.S. Treasury talking about it. So look, my thoughts on this are simple. Bitcoin is the innovation. Bitcoin is good money. These shitcoins, they try to pretend like they do, right? Algorithmic fucking stablecoin. It's a disaster, right? And it's what I kept saying. They're going to use this as an excuse to attack Bitcoin. They're not going to be successful. Here's what I think is going to happen with stablecoins. They're going to make them an extension of the current system. Meaning, if you live in Afghanistan, if you live in Cuba, if you live in one of those countries, and you happen to have a stablecoin, potentially they just freeze it, right? Why? Because they're sanctioned countries, right? It's really only Bitcoin, right? A non-censorable money that really does the job at separating money from state. If it can't be regulated, it will be regulated. And as stablecoins become more and more popular, the governments are not going to have a choice but to clamp down on them. And that's exactly what happened here. Yellen used the excuse. She doesn't really fucking care what happened with Terra, but that is a great fucking excuse, to increase the heavy hand of government. So it is what it is. Jane, what are your thoughts? I mean, it's not surprising, really.
I think they're concerned about coming after stablecoins because stablecoins have their value because of the dollar, and the United States is spending a lot of money, a lot of military resources to keep the value of the dollar. We're in a war right now because they're trying to keep the value of the dollar stable. So they just want to get their piece of the pie. I also think I agree with you 100% decentralization. That's actually why I started getting into Bitcoin, why I started supporting Bitcoin, why I want to make Bitcoin the new gold in our state. We need it. It's a store of value. We have to have it. If we don't, we're going to fail, especially in the long run. We'll just be done. And we'll end up working for another state or another country like we do right now for China. So I absolutely agree. I know the Fed is looking to make a central bank
Digital
CBDC,
yeah.
a central bank digital currency. And basically, they're probably going to require us to have wallets that they provide us, and they'll be able to shut off those wallets or take tax money out of there or do anything they want with our money. And we have to be really careful not to allow them to do that. And Yellen is very sneaky, so we got to keep an eye on her.
Absolutely. She, to quote Cynthia Lummis, right, she got a jump on the infrastructure bill. I think, you're dealing with someone who is the head of the Federal Reserve. She definitely is a big believer in fiat central banking. Absolutely. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. And speaking of the war, Phil, before I get your thoughts, I want to dig in. I just wanted to pass by that real quick and update everybody. So, look, this is Biden saying his top priority is fighting inflation. This is what I've been saying. Inflation is extremely damaging politically. It's something that the propaganda can't spin. The Misinformation Bureau, as much as they would like to label tweets misinformation, as much as, they've tried to paint a narrative, right, that, hey, it's not there. The sticker shock does not lie. When you go to the store and you try to purchase something, and the prices absolutely blow your mind, the propaganda doesn't work, right? So let's see how he's addressing inflation, and then let's see something else, right? Because this is I don't agree with him. Anyways, check it out.
The bottom line is this: my top priority is fighting inflation and lowering prices for families.
Okay, hear that? My top and again, we're apolitical. Both parties do the same thing that I'm about to talk about, right? My top priority is fighting inflation. You hear that? Right? I want that to stick in your mind. Congress rallies around more Ukrainian aid with few questions asked. The escalated brutality of the war in Ukraine has dampened voices on both the right and the left skeptical of the United States involving itself in an armed conflict overseas, fueling a rush by Congress to pour huge amounts of money into a potentially lengthy and costly offensive against Russia, with few questions or reservations raised. The House was poised on Tuesday night to pass a second military and humanitarian aid package for Kyiv that has ballooned to nearly $40 billion, with weeks after lawmakers overwhelmingly approved $13.6 billion in emergency aid for the war effort. That total roughly $53 billion over the span of 2 months. Now let me go back to this. Right? $53 billion. Just to give you a frame of reference, that is the yearly budget for the state of Pennsylvania.
The bottom line is this: my top priority is fighting inflation and lowering.
The only way you reduce inflation is the government stops printing money. Where do you think they're going to get that $53 billion? Okay, Jane, hit it.
I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
So when he says he's committed to fighting inflation, I think what he means is increasing the value of the dollar, and how he's doing that is sanctioning Russia, trying to get them to stop supplying oil to the Eastern countries or the European Union. And basically what Biden did is, and I don't want to say Biden, I mean the administration, bought tons of oil from Russia and is now forcing the European Union to purchase oil from America. So essentially, they're transferring the power from Russia to America and making money off of it. Also, they're coming after Russian billionaires, confiscating their assets, selling them, and then they're using that money for foreign aid to Ukraine. But foreign aid is not a gift, it's just a loan with a high interest repayment. So essentially, he's just creating more debt we could profit from and keep the dollar in action. So even though he sanctioned Russia, Saudi Arabia, he's had really bad relations with them. Now they're providing oil to all the countries that Biden wants to buy at full price from the States. So it's a total mess. When he says he wants to fight inflation, that's what I hear. He's fighting it by stealing assets from other nations.
Yeah, so,
and I'm not being anti-American. I'm just.
But to be fair, right? What Biden did with declaring economic war on Russia had the opposite effect of the ruble. The ruble, right? Because Putin actually partially backed it by gold, has actually recovered to its previous level before that, and American citizens have been hurt the most because of this war. Yeah. And not to mention that European countries, they resort about 30 to 40% of their countries still rely on Russian gas. So again, what I see is a crazy politician with the money printer funding a war that Americans don't agree with, and Americans are paying the financial price of this war, which is why something like Bitcoin has to win, because Bitcoin separates money from state, and it takes away politicians' ability to do this. If we were under a Bitcoin standard, war would be unaffordable. The politicians would have to openly advocate to the public so that the public would give them money, also known as taxes, so they could fund those very expensive wars. It's not a coincidence that the century of central banking was the bloodiest in human history. So perhaps I got the intricacies of how, the 40 billion is issued, right? But it is a debt. We lived in a debt-based financial system, right? In my eyes, what they're doing is they're printing money, right? And who's paying the consequences of this? Everyone else, except for the government, right? That's my opinion.
Oh, that's absolutely right. I think this is also where the disinformation governance board comes in. I don't think it's a coincidence that they're starting that right now when they're trying to hide all this information about the war.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to point out that the sanctions end up hurting the population much more than they end up hurting the governments of those countries. So, while we're all arguing about this and, we're printing a bunch of money to quote unquote save the country, the average person in Ukraine is suffering. The average person in Russia is suffering. It's like, don't get me wrong, but like this is why we go back to the to the point that Nico was talking about in a Bitcoin world, it becomes unaffordable and it becomes unfeasible to have war, because you genuinely have to petition the public, which the government used to have to do once upon a time in order to get people to go to war, because you do require hearts and minds to get people to go overseas and possibly die for something. So it makes it really difficult when the money is printed out of thin air to have faith.
So, we take power out of the hands of people who waste it, and I think people know for themselves and their community what they need most. And I don't think the government does. I don't think they care. They're all multimillionaires. They know how to balance budgets. They just don't care about the taxpayer dollars. They'd rather spend that money going to war, wasting the resources on every random thing. I also think a really good use for Bitcoin with government would be if government got paid in Bitcoin, we would be able to see exactly what they're spending the money on, because the blockchain doesn't lie. And if we can do that, we can look up anything.
This is true. There's a lot more transparency. As much as they would like you to believe that their system is a transparent and public one, Bitcoin is more transparent. Central banking is the one that's opaque. Yeah. But anyways, Jane, prepare yourself. This is where we're going to talk about you. I'm going to have a little bit of hard questions. So this is your your campaign page, right? Jane Addams, Las Vegas for Congress, right? You have the Ronald Reagan quote. I like that. Anyways, your main goals is cut government spending, start investing in America, pro business. And here, this is what we're going to talk about, right? You have Bitcoin in your bio. I'm assuming you want to get Bitcoin voters behind you, right? You have a very nice write-up. Bitcoin offers hope to hardworking Americans. Absolutely agree. And then you bash on central bank digital currencies. What we've always said, right? We're gonna have a future. We're gonna have to pick between slavery, which is central bank digital currencies, and Bitcoin. So, Jane, one of the main concerns with Bitcoiners, and that was part of one of the reasons that they acted so aggressively to you, is this. A lot of politicians, what we're seeing is that, they'll use the Bitcoin hashtag. We believe that they're grifters. We believe that you guys are, sharing that to get people to vote for you because you support Bitcoin. So what case would you make for us that are skeptical that you really are a Bitcoiner? Are you really a Bitcoiner? Do you understand that there's Bitcoins and then there's shitcoins, right? It's okay to hold them. Look, it's a personal choice, right? You want to hold shitcoins, that's totally on you. But would you agree that they're gambling? They're not a store of value.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think anyone should hold shitcoins ever. I think, and this is why I support Bitcoin education in schools, financial literacy in schools. In Las Vegas, 16% of our population is living in poverty, and we're 49th in education in the nation. And there's clearly a link between poor education and poverty, and we need to break that with Bitcoin education and financial literacy. That's one of my biggest concerns in my platform. The other thing with CBDCs, exactly like you were just saying, we want to get power out of the hands of the government, put it into the hands of the people. It's really good investment. I think the state should create opportunities for people to invest in it. I think it should be legal tender so that gig workers, independent contractors, small businesses, which we have a lot of here, they can receive Bitcoin, they can get paid in Bitcoin, earn it, they can hold it. They don't need to figure out how they're going to do it. It would just make it really easy for people to get involved. Government spending, of course, government's printing way too much money, investing in America. Here's the thing is a lot of banks refuse to loan money to people that need it. They only lend money to people that already have money. And we need to find a way to back the banks so that we can start investing in innovative ideas, technology, research and development. As far as Bitcoin, in a local sense, we need to get Bitcoin mining here. We have a really poor electric grid. We just opened up public land to energy developers, energy generators, energy storers. And the only way we can afford that is if we get Bitcoin mining. It'll create a demand, it'll give us funding to build out the grid or build out new grids. So we desperately need that. I think it's a different approach than the state is used to, but I'm really pushing for that specifically. What else is there?
Would you support, you said you would support Bitcoin as legal tender, right?
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay.
Oh, let me comment on the political aspect. So I hear what you're saying with politicians being grifters. I'm not a politician. I've led initiatives around the country for mostly energy ballot initiatives. I believe that the American people deserve to have control over what they do, especially when it comes to energy. We should be able to generate our own energy, store it, sell it. You shouldn't have to be a part of the central grid. I am not a politician. I have no reason to lie. As you can see, I'm a very average, ordinary person. I'm doing this because nobody else in my district is representing Bitcoin. Nobody here likes it. Nobody wants to support it. And essentially, that's what pushed me into the race and pushed me to move in this direction. I have nothing to benefit. Would you
support eliminating capital gains tax for Bitcoin?
100%. I would support eliminating all taxes for Bitcoin. It's not the government's money. What are they charging us taxes for? I don't think we should even be paying taxes on it now because we're not being represented in Congress. Nobody has a voice in the federal government. We're not allowed to participate in their activities. So why are we paying any taxes on Bitcoin?
So one last thing, and I want to emphasize this because I know a lot of the plebs are going to be thinking about this. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm not an advocate for the state mandating anything. So I'm not an advocate for the state supporting Bitcoin and then being against shitcoins. I just don't want the government involved. I want the free market to do its thing. But you have to be realistic. Sometimes the state does pick sides, which is where I'm coming from in this question. Would you, and I think this is where a lot of the concerns in Bitcoiners come from, right? And we saw that with Wendy Rogers of Arizona. If there's some legislation that's proposed, are you against putting shitcoins and Bitcoins on equal footing? Because they're not, right? But, some politicians see it as that. Phil, did I phrase that correctly? Do you want to add to that?
No, you absolutely phrased it correctly. But maybe the only piece that I could really add, right, is that, so one of the major issues that we have in Bitcoin, right, is that essentially crypto becomes validated by Bitcoin's very existence. So what happens is that you get a lot of these projects that end up borrowing Bitcoin's validation in order to further their own private ends. So really, at the end of the day, this is kind of the discussion that that we had last night. There's Bitcoin and there's everything else, right? And so that's what that's what Nico's alluding to for the equal footing. So for us, the way that we see it is that there's Bitcoin, but then there's this whole other thing which has nothing to do with Bitcoin, which has nothing to do with censorship resistant. It does not have the same properties. That is something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I don't see it. I don't see shitcoins or altcoins as a store of value. And like I said earlier, I think they're just for making a flip. If you want to invest money, if you want serious value, Bitcoin is the only way to go. I don't see any way that validating shitcoins would be of any benefit to our society. It would be of no benefit to anyone anywhere. So I think if someone, I guess with legislation, suggested giving it some kind of equal footing, I wouldn't support that. But I would support the government not getting too involved in how people are creating the market.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Jane. We appreciate it. You're the first candidate for office. Now we have a couple politicians that are coming on the show, but you are the first. So we're super honored to have you. I hope that addresses everything with the plebs. I think I've asked the questions I needed to do. If I missed any, put it down in the comment section. Rip me a new one so next time, I could ask the questions that you guys want asked. But anyways, so there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
We've got the Plebsites today. Brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out, CypherSafe.io. As Bitcoin continues to accrue value, you need to make sure that your seed is secure. Store it in the Cypher Wheel or the all-new Cypher Grid. They both come with a tamper-resistant wire, but the grid also comes with a punch tool. Our Plebsite today is an oldie but a goodie, and this was one of those websites that really got me to understand the security proposition of Bitcoin. How many confs.com, right? How many confirmations are equivalent to Bitcoin's 6 confirmations? This is very important. Okay, because we're talking about the security of the Bitcoin network. So here we go. We've got something like ETH over here. 718 confirmations is equivalent to the security of Bitcoin's 6. Anyways, this is a great website. The link is going to be in the show notes. Check it out. And don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You could stream us sats through Breeze.
Thanks, Phil. Awesome. Yeah, dude, that's a great website because, it shows the immutability of Bitcoin, right? And compared to a lot of these other shitcoins, right? It's like, oh, Ethereum confirms faster. But it doesn't have the same immutability as Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is actually faster if you want to take a look at the immutability, which is why there's a nuance there, right? A lot of the shitcoins are like, it's faster. Of course, they conveniently leave out Lightning. Anyways, before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our clothing sponsor, representltd.com. Phil and I are matching hoodies today. That's kind of strange. This is the Bitcoin merch, and he's coming out with Simply Bitcoin merch soon. Good news, you can take advantage of the promo code down below to get 10% off anything off the representltd.com store. I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome guest, first political candidate on Simply Bitcoin. Give her a follow on Twitter at I Love James Adams. She is running for Congress in Nevada 1 Las Vegas, and we wish you the best of luck. If you guys want to support her, go check out her website, jameadam.us. Anyways, guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Of course, you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails. Definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you tomorrow, guys, for a brand new episode.
Don't be fooled. It's the Ministry of Lies.